David is an industry innovator, constantly striving to improve espresso techniques and equipment. Working closely with La Marzocco engineers, he has created prototype espresso machines for use in his stores that control room water temperature error to less than half a degree Fahrenheit, regardless of volume served. He has created an ergonomic espresso tamping tool and modified his grinders to handle high volume work with no compromise in quality. David earned a Bachelor of Arts in Cultural Anthropology from University of Washington and a Bachelor of Fine Arts from the Cornish Institute in Classical Flute Performance. So, if you want to hear some amazing music, talk to him afterwards. He also has worked in the field of meteorology, metrology, very different than meteorology. Literally the science of measurement, especially in DC voltage and resistance equipment. His 8 years combined work in calibration labs for the U.S. Air Force, John Fluke Instruments, and Boeing's Aerospace Class A Standards Lab in Seattle. So, David is also the author of a book entitled Espresso Coffee, Professional Techniques, which has become the standard text for espresso professionals from New Zealand to Taiwan. He's written over 80 trade articles and produced 2 videos on his espresso techniques and cafe latte art style. Would you please welcome David Schiller.
Thank you very much. And everyone here okay? Good. Well, the roasting espresso, or any bean, roasting for coffee preparation, is literally the creation of the flavor and aroma that you want. Brewing is the preservation of that flavor or aroma that you have created. So when we talk about roasting for espresso, thanks. Give me a little bump. Talk about roasting for espresso, it's very crucial to have an extremely highly developed espresso extraction program. In other words, you can make the coffee. Because what you need to do is to spot off where that caramel band is. Caramelization is what we're going to talk about a lot today. So if you have a precise feedback through the espresso method, then you have a precise idea of where your roast is going to come out the best. You see what I mean? You need to know what you have. Brewing methods such as French press or drip cone or anything that's a saturation method will not preserve the sugars or the varietal tones to the degree that espresso will if it's done exceptionally well. So what I want to do is to start with a brief review of espresso technique before we get into specifics on roasting. And by the way, this talk is not intended to try to give you Vivace's formula, which is an 18-year of precise work and development of my caramelized content in my coffee. What this is to give you the tools to find your own muse, your own degree of caramel versus bittering in your final roast that you like. So I'm trying to give you the tools and the knowledge to develop your own roast with some limitations. On the left of your screen, it's too small now. You'll see a no sign through a lemon. All right? Citric acid is not the style. Citric acid present in an espresso blend is a defect, and we're going to go into this at length. And as well as on the right, we have a little tiny burnt match in my no, and burning it up also is not a style. It's a little more of a style than lemon acid because if you burn it up, at least if you put in enough milk and sugar, you have a French cafe au lait, something palatable. If it's acidic, there's literally nothing you can do. You add sugar, it doesn't help. You add milk, it doesn't help. But we're going to get on there. What I want to do is to look at espresso technique real quick. Technology, ain't it grand? At least it worked. I couldn't believe I just plugged in my computer and it actually worked. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? All right, so the espresso method, maximum caramel preservation. We're going to be needing fresh coffee, of course. Coffee between day 3 and day 10 after roasting is your freshness window. Storage, 55 degrees, dark place like wine. Sharp grinder burrs, all right? You're going to have to, like the gentleman previously, you're going to have to, flat burrs, you want to replace them every 600 pounds. Conical burrs every 2,000 pounds. I favor conical grinding systems because when the conical burr compresses the bean, it shatters, and that creates microparticles. Then the flat burrs take over and shear to a uniform grind. The microparticles give you mouthfeel and aroma, a higher experience than the flat burr, but they're a little tricky, and we're going to get into that, a little tricky for your brewing. Then clean machine, standard stuff, flow rate, shot cutoff, and this is literally what we work the hardest been training for 25 years. And right now, what we work on the hardest is flow rate and shot cutoff. And tune machine, which means you're going to have the ability to adjust your water temperature, get one of the new PID machines. My introduction was a little bit behind the curve. I no longer have prototype machines because I don't need them. Several manufacturers, including the guys in the Espresso contest, have come out with PID machines that hold their temperature. If your temperature wanders, you have no chance of preserving the caramel. You're literally lost, okay? So the only way to do this is with excellent technology, PID control, excellent group head. I recommend Espresso, the Slayers out there. It looks like the Nuovo Simonelli might be quite good. I'm competing on that later. Okay, so tune machine and espresso technique. Espresso technique. Okay, what I'm always doing is to crush the lumps and channels out in distribution and dosing. I'm doing this 4-part system where I go over it with my finger, and we're not going to spend a lot of time here, but you got to have excellent barista technique. It's all in my book, and there's other sources available too now that understand how to limit channeling and get an even extraction. Conical burrs are right there. The heavy veins pull the bean in and shatter it. The fine burrs take over and shear it. And I mentioned this is difficult on technique, and the reason is flow rate. The micro particles, they migrate down during the shot, and they form a mass across the bottom and speeds up the pour at a certain point. And we're always playing around. Gee, when's that going to happen? On a hot, dry day, I have a finer grind overall, right? And the microparticle percentage increases greatly if you have a finer grind on conical burr, to the point where the shot being squeezed off is a real problem. So flat burrs give you an even grind size, but less flavor and aroma. Conical burrs, a virtuoso product, gives you a higher flavor and aroma, but it's tricky on the bottom. He asked if there's any difference between the ceramic and the metal one. Ceramic is crap, metal is good. Flat burr, there it is. This is a titanium. That's a fine choice. Titanium lasts longer. This is an Anfim. That's out there on the floor. Anfim is the best flat burr grinder I know of today. You can get it from Espresso. And that one gives you even particle size, so you have no trouble on extraction. You can dial in your flow rate and not have microparticle migration. And I go back and forth. Sometimes I wish I didn't have microparticles in there, because I can dial in that flow rate, which is flavor creation. We're going to get to that. I can dial it in so tight, but at the end, it's kind of never as good as my conical. So I'm kind of I got what I got. You guys can try it later at my contest. All right, here we go. Flow rate, the holy grail. All right. I told you we'd work the hardest on flow rate. Look at these lovely shots by Nicole. I can keep some technology going. Wrong way. Cute. Conical. Going backwards as it shouldn't be. I can tell you, I'm amazed this thing works. It's outstanding that it works. And now, of course, it's getting in trouble. Pardon? Yeah. I don't even have my reading glasses. Let's keep going. So, flow rate. If I have a shot, my double shot right now is pretty small. All right. I'm going backwards one. All right, this slide. I'm almost done with my pouring. Of course, it's beautiful. We're reading color, density, and evenness to know about distribution. I mean, the technique is a world, all right? It's an entire world, and I encourage you to explore that world, but we're not going to do that in my 50-minute talk. All right, so flow rate. If my flow rate varies, for my total volume, I reach it in 27 to 29 seconds. Hey, thanks. If my flow rate varies a second, in my Dolce blend, for example, I have dark chocolate, caramel, leather salt, honey, a little bit of anise, and toast in a perfect shot. If my flow rate varies almost imperceptibly, different flavors come out to play. Different flavors are dominant that are all present in my rose, but they're different to the tiniest, minute change in flow rate. I have a whole other coffee, not defective, but just a different featuring. So the blueberries are raw. We had one day where my guy was making these shots, and everybody was, oh, the blueberry is so awesome. And then you change the grind the teeniest bit, or the humidity changes, and all of a sudden the caramel's coming out and the blueberries in the background. I find that exceptionally beautiful. The coffee that I've been struggling with for 25 years, the farther I get into perfecting it, which is defined as the fragrance is in your cup to enjoy the flavor. That is my benchmark. Fragrance of the roast is present in the cup. That is the benchmark. The closer I get, the more beautiful complexity I'm seeing, the more absolutely fascinating the cuisine is. I'm totally in love with what I do after 25 years. And I'm just total immersion guy. I'm in there every day and battling the grinders. Yesterday I rebuilt 6 grinders before 10 o'clock, and then I went running down here to work on the machines. I love the coffee, and it's because it's continually rewarding. The more we perfect it, the more of its beautiful and sensitive nature it reveals. And indeed, we are very close now to tasting the fragrance, thanks to Espresso. Yay, Mark, my hero. Okay, so flow rate is the holy grail we work the hardest on. We use timers. And bottomless portafilter. Okay, tuning the machine. This is my rig that started it all off in 94 or 93. I went around to every espresso machine and I data logged its performance. And the best ones were plus or minus 4 degrees Fahrenheit. And I said, well, Mr. Coffee for $39 does better than that. Let's get with it. And I come out of a Boeing engineering background, and I'm like, oh, please, this stuff was just primitive. No technology at all. And the Italians sit around, well, well, we like it the way it is, or whatever, and I'm like, oh, God, just shoot me. So finally, several machine companies have responded after 15 years of continuous nagging and occasional effort on my part. And so it starts with this. This rig will tell you coffee bed temperature. Study it up. I've got articles online at espressovivace.com. Measuring your brewing water temperature, free. Click it up, go to work. Brewing water temperature must be stable, must have a clean machine, must have water at 150 parts per million, which you're not going to get, so we're not going to spend any time there, and neither do I have it. I'm not like holding one over on you. I tried to tune my water for about a year, and I just gave up. The machines were breaking down, and Sir Claw made one formulator, and it just drove us crazy. So it's the first time I've ever backed off, but if you have tuned water at 150 parts per million of total dissolved solids, mineral content, you get a lot more of the varietal nuance, and you don't suck this middle point. There's a little middle point, especially on new machines where you taste that coffee. You have a tiny metal point. That's literally metal molecules being stripped by your low mineral water into your coffee. Not harmful, but it gives you that metal point till the machine's like 6, 7 years old, several 100,000 shots through it. But if you have tuned water, you don't have that metal point, you have better varietal flavors, and of course sugar preservation as well goes right with that. All right, espresso machine tuning. Espresso technique, we've been over that. Packing, use about 30 to 40 pounds. There's a common misnomer. People say, well, you know, David, I come up and say, you're pouring fast, don't make me shoot myself. And they go, well, I just followed so-and-so, and they have a harder pack. Espresso coffee does not compress after 30 pounds. That's it. Doesn't compress, doesn't change its flow rate. At least my blend. I'm willing to be surprised. But my blend doesn't compress, so it's dosage. Everything I'm controlling the flow rate is controlling your pack volume, dosage, okay? Okay, any questions on technique? I know we blew through it. I have published 110 articles, 2 books. Go find it. You can't roast for espresso without the method of espresso preparation being locked down, absolutely perfect. But still, I want to encourage you to do cupping. You do cupping for broad defects, if it's animal, if it's fermentation, if there's something in that blend or the bean. I encourage you to use your cupping, but you're flying blind unless you can make a precise espresso and you want to roast for espresso. It's your feedback. Okay, so how do I actually do it? In 1991, I got the little Probat BRZ2. I'm sorry about the mic. It's like everybody can hear during its different moods. The mic has little moods. It's like pointing around. Everybody can hear. Okay, so I got the BRZ2, and this gives me the ability to roast 100-gram samples. So I start with a Brazil, because that's what Dr. Ely's book said, start with a Brazil. I said, okay, one of the few things I could get my hands on. And so I started, and I took a roasting lesson from Robert Henley in the San Francisco area, which I recommend everybody does. And I came back and I started working. I start with a certain intonation. And by the way, everything happens in second crack. Second crack is where we live. Past second crack is burned. Previous to second crack is dominated by citric acid. We're going to hit that hard. But I start out and I bring in my little 100-gram sample. We make a